Prime Field.
I'll be committing to the University of South Carolina.
Yes, ma'am!
Welcome to Prime Field. The announcement did not happen in a gym or a hometown auditorium. It happened on ESPN's NBA Today. That choice of stage mattered. It signaled that visibility, platform, and brand context were part of the decision, not just the next roster spot. Jerzy Robinson's recruitment reportedly narrowed to 3 programs: South Carolina, LSU, and UConn. 3 names that, for elite guards, have become the modern endgame. The central question is straightforward. Why did Robinson choose South Carolina over LSU and UConn? And what does that choice reveal about the current recruiting power structure in women's basketball? The answer is not contained in a single edit or a single pitch. It sits in timelines, identity, and the specific kind of trust that top programs offer when the margin between finalists is thin, and the final detail in one chapter sets up the next. In elite recruiting, the stage is rarely separate from the strategy. The first clue arrived with the setting. Robinson's announcement on NBA Today placed the moment inside a mainstream sports ecosystem. Not a niche space, not a team-produced reveal, a national platform built for broad visibility. That does not automatically define the reasons for a commitment, but it frames the surrounding environment. It suggests that reach and presentation were valued, and that the commitment was treated like a public-facing event, not just a private basketball decision. In modern recruiting, a commitment can serve 2 purposes at once. It finalizes a basketball fit, and it begins a broader identity in public view. The story then moves from the stage to the shortlist, because the programs left standing were not random finalists. The reported final battle, South Carolina, LSU, and UConn, reflects a specific recruiting reality. These are programs that can credibly sell both immediate impact and long-term outcomes. They can offer exposure, championship expectations, and a defined structure for elite players at the top of the sport. LSU is positioned as star power plus scoring freedom. UConn is positioned as development plus legacy. South Carolina is positioned as two-way identity plus pro ecosystem. Those are not marketing slogans. They are recruiting frameworks. Each pitch emphasizes a different pathway to the same endpoint, winning now and building a player's future profile along the way. When recruitment comes down to 3 brands with 3 distinct value propositions, the decision often turns on a quieter element that gets less attention in public coverage: the timeline. Recruiting is frequently discussed as a final month battle, but the late stage is often decided by what was built earlier. Coverage framed South Carolina's relationship with Robinson as full circle. That language points to an extended timeline, and a staff presence that began early, then held. That matters because elite recruitment is not only about the best offer, it is about the most stable offer, consistent communication, consistent evaluation, and a consistent role narrative. Early trust can become late leverage. In a final 3, all programs can promise opportunity. What is harder to replicate is the foundation that already exists when the decision window tightens. So the story shifts from chronology to the player, because a recruitment is not only about which program is strongest, it is also about which program can credibly absorb a specific skill set and reward it early. Robinson is described as a physical guard, a player who defends, a player who attacks the rim, a player whose game carries contact, and whose value is not limited to scoring. That profile matters because it fits the parts of winning that do not always show in the highlight packages: defense that holds, drives that collapse at defense, physicality that translates when the competition level rises. Just as important is the phrase attached to her projection. She can earn minutes early in a system that rewards toughness. That single idea, earning minutes, reveals the core tension in high-level recruiting. Not every top player chooses the same kind of promise. Some choose maximum freedom. Some choose the clearest development pipeline. Some choose the program where the identity of their game is already a known currency. That leads directly into the 3 pitches. In this reported final group, each program offered a different center of gravity. LSU, star power plus scoring freedom. This pitch leans into profile and production. It frames opportunity through offensive runway, space to score, space to be featured, space to play with visibility built into the brand. UConn, development plus legacy. This pitch is built on the weight of history and the promise of refinement. It positions the program as a destination where elite prospects become complete players, and where joining the lineage carries its own meaning. South Carolina, two-way identity plus pro ecosystem. This pitch emphasizes full court value, defense, rebounding, physical play, and a clear team identity. It also sells a setting where high-level roles are shaped inside a broader professional context. None of these pitches are inherently better. They are different answers to the same question. What kind of environment best matches a player's strengths, and best prepares a player for what comes next? The decision as presented in the brief points to the fit argument, specifically how certain skills translate into trust. Fit is often treated like a vague concept. In reality, fit is measurable in one way above all others: minutes. The brief frames South Carolina's appeal through a track record with guards and wings who defend and rebound, players who do the work that stabilizes a game, players who can be trusted in high-leverage possessions because their impact is not dependent on a single shot type. In that framework, Robinson's describes strengths aligned with what earns early trust: physical defense, rim pressure, toughness that holds up across matchups. A two-way identity is not just a style choice. It's a selection mechanism. It determines who plays early and who plays when games tighten. That is the hinge of this commitment. Not a promise of points, not a guarantee of stardom, but a pathway where the traits already associated with Robinson can translate into immediate roles. And once that is understood, the final layer becomes visible. Because this commitment also speaks to a broader public narrative around South Carolina's recruiting. The brief points to a recurring storyline, the claim that Dawn Staley can't recruit at the very top. Robinson's commitment directly challenges that narrative. A Final Three, including LSU and UConn, is not a regional win. It is a win against peers at the top of the sports recruiting hierarchy. So why does the narrative persist? The brief does not attribute motives, and neither should the analysis. But the pattern is familiar in sports coverage. Narratives often survive because they are easy to repeat, and because recruiting outcomes are treated as proof of identity rather than evidence of process. This commitment places emphasis back on process, early relationship building, a clear role fit, and a program identity strong enough to compete with competing models, scoring freedom on one side, legacy development on the other. That is where the story moves toward its conclusion, because the final impact of a commitment is not only what it means today, it is what it signals about where the sport is going. Jerzy Robinson's decision, announced on a national platform narrowed to 3 programs built for elite guards and one on a combination of timeline and fit, lands as more than a single recruiting victory. It reflects a current power structure where a small group of programs can credibly compete for the highest level of talent, while offering distinct identities rather than identical promises. It also reinforces a specific truth about South Carolina's model. In a landscape where some pitches are built around offensive freedom and others are built around tradition, a two-way identity can still close the deal, especially when the relationship began early and the role makes sense on contact. The forward-looking impact is clear without needing prediction. This commitment becomes another data point in how top recruits evaluate programs now: stage, ecosystem, identity, and trust. Not only highlights. And as this recruiting cycle continues, the final sentence of this story points to the next one. In elite women's basketball, the programs that win the biggest recruitments are not always the ones that promise the most, but the ones that can prove the clearest path from skill to role to minutes.
Prime Field